Hey there, Chadi Bazzi here with the Top Listing Agent Show. We have an amazing guest today. He's actually the first guest to be on for the second time on the show.
Woo!
Because Mr. Jim Remley, because of what we're going through right now with, all the coronavirus and, the fear and the crisis and the pandemic and all that good stuff, I thought to myself, who are the amazing people who are in my network, who are thought leaders and just leaders overall in their communities and to our real estate industry that would be some of the greatest minds for me to get on here and have a conversation with, so I could help you, so we could help you and we can support you to, number one, get through this time, for some of you guys to just survive and save your business, and for some of you guys to capitalize on some of the opportunities that are going to be, following, the crisis. And Jim is an expert on lead generation. He's an expert on lead conversion. He's an overall expert. And what we're going to talk about today is the 7 ways to prospect and generate business in uncertain times. So without further ado, Jim, some people may not have heard our first podcast together. So if you could give us a little brief overview as to who you are and how awesome you are.
Love to do it. First of all, thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure to be with Chadi. Full of energy, lots of good information. Love it. Thank you. So my background, 30 years in the business. I always tell people, don't let that scare you. I'm still actively in the trenches. I'm sitting alone in my 12,000 square foot office today, socially distancing from everyone. My history really quick is I started in the real estate industry at 19, was listed in top 1% of agents within 2 years, and listed 150 properties in my second year in the business, my second full year. And from there, I went out and opened my first company at the age of 24, grew that to 17 offices. I sold it in 06, right before the crash. I got really lucky, no foresight, just, pure blind luck. Sometimes a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. That was me. I also, during that time that I was running up that company, I was a speaker for NAR for 10 years. And then I got recruited to come down and run another company. So, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. So I've been running a company here in Southern Oregon for the last 10 years. We've grown it from 30 agents to 180 agents. We did $912 million in sales last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of my background, where I'm coming from.
So in other words, is you better freaking damn listen, because the experience that you're about, the knowledge that's about to get dropped right now is definitely relevant. And not only that, you being in the industry for as long as you have been, you've gone through multiple shifts in markets. So
yeah.
And what I love about that is every single person I speak to, Jim, they're like, they learned from the last one. And even though they may have got the last one right, now they think back, if I can go back and do it all over again, I probably would have added 1 or 2, 3 things on top of that they're adding those 1, 2, 3 things on top of that today. And we'll definitely, talk about that. But, I want to begin by speaking about, just what, with one word, before we talk about the 7 ways to generate, business and uncertain times and all that good stuff. There's a couple of words that revolve around how people are feeling right now. And the key word is feeling. The key word is emotion. Even the person that really never connected with their emotions, didn't even know that they were an emotional being, all of a sudden is overwhelmed with emotion. And I think the biggest emotion that a lot of people are fearing or feeling is the word fear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
People are afraid, and so are real estate agents, not just, people in general. Can you speak about that for a moment, please?
Yeah, so I manage 180 people. Right before our call, I was talking to 2 agents at the same time by text, and there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, and beyond fear, the next level down from fear is panic. And I think what we're seeing with a lot of agents is absolute sheer terror and panic, and they don't know what to do, and they don't know how they're going to feed their families. But what I like to point out a few things with agents, and the first thing is that this is a temporary event. It's not like 2008, which I also went through. I've been through the .com bust. I've been through all these events in my lifetime where we had, when I started, 18% interest rates and the economy really in the tank and through the mid 80s. So the difference between this event that's happening to us and other times is that it is truly an event. there's some actually, and you got to dig for the good news, and you got to dig for the ray of sunshine that's in this midst of darkness that we have. And I'm going to share a couple things with you, Chadi, that I think will be something that I've been sharing with my agents. I just did this at my office meeting this week. A lot of people missed the news, but in February, and I know the virus hadn't hit in February yet, but I just want to share this with you. In February of this year, we had our best real estate month for 13 years. So it was the best month since February 2007. Sales were up 7.2% across the country. And what I mean by that is the volume of sales. We hit 5.77 million in the volume of sales that were going up. Prices went up 8% comparing February to February of last year. So we're coming into this crisis with an incredibly strong foundation in housing. The difference between this and other events like 2008, for instance, is that there was a housing bubble. We don't have a housing bubble here. This economic event has really nothing to do with housing. We're being affected, but that's different than it being us being the cause. And even today, there's still great demand in the market, and we have to understand that the demand is going to snap back, and you can still weather the storm and even get through this crisis moment and still create sales. As I've been telling all my students across the country, there's not a single market in the country that's gone to zero. So even in states where I coach students in Washington and all over the country where you're at really a lockdown phase, agents are adaptable. We are one of the fastest adapting industries in the country. So we adapt to change really rapidly. And people are doing virtual showings. We created several virtual sales here where we actually had our agents walking around with different apps on their phone and showing properties virtually, or even handing that responsibility off to the seller to do virtual showings. So we're adapting quickly. But there's some other pieces of good news here. The other piece of good news is our chief economist, Lawrence Yun. And you say, what does the NAR chief economist think of this crisis we're going through? Here's his exact words. He says this. He says, once the social distancing and quarantine measures are relaxed, we should see this temporary pause evaporate and potential buyers return to the market with the same enthusiasm. And remember, that enthusiasm in February was a 13-year high. So, his feeling is that this is going to snap back. If you look at what's happening in China, China's closing their last coronavirus hospital. South Korea's come over the top. They're on the downward slide. So in China, this was an 8-week event. Maybe let's call it 10-week event. Now for us, we're just in the beginning stages. It's going to feel like it's going to get darker before it gets lighter, but this is a tunnel, and we're going to get through the tunnel. Another great person who's spoken on this matter is Dr. Robert Shiller. If you've heard the Case-Shiller Index, something we all reference as real estate professionals a lot, and the stock market looks at Robert Shiller as being an expert. The reason why is Robert Shiller, Dr. Shiller, predicted the 2008 collapse, and so he was way ahead of the curve on that. They asked him recently, what do you think about this compared to other economic downturns? And his exact words was this. He said, this doesn't seem to be another 1929 or 2008. The story isn't the same. He said, this time the bad news comes from something outside of the economy. It's a virus story that's turned into a stock market story. He notes this current crisis more resembles the Spanish flu epidemic of 1919, far more than the vanishing credit of the Great Recession. So for us, this is Dr. Shiller, and he believes that when you look at this, it's like a blanket on top of a fire. You put a blanket on a fire for a minute, yeah, the flames die out. But what happens when you pull that blanket back off and oxygen rushes back in, the flames reignite. That's what's going to happen. But with agents, we have a choice to make. And the choice is we go down in our bunkers, we turn on Netflix, and we put our feet up and we just hope and pray for the best. We're like the doomsday preppers. That's a lot of agents are going to that mentality. But there's a smaller group of agents that are going to continue to work through the crisis. They're going to continue to talk to clients. They're going to continue to do, video calls with clients every day. They're going to continue reaching out through email and text and communicating with clients. There's one thing that's interesting in a crisis, and that is everybody wants to communicate in a crisis. When you have a family emergency, what happens? Family emergency, somebody dies, somebody gets sick. The first thing that people do, they get on the phone. They start communicating. Even if you haven't talked to your uncle or your brother in years, there's been some kind of disconnect. Even if there's some major rift, you come together in crisis. And that's what's happening with our clients. They want us to communicate. So that's my message to agents right now, is you got to get over your panic, you got to get over your fear, and you've got to get up and go to work. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Today I got up, I took a shower, I shaved, I shaved my head, and
all.
yeah, the whole thing. I put on my clothes, I put on my name badge, and I'm ready to go to work. So for all of us, we have to have that same mentality. We got to come into the situation, even at home, and work from a ritual, work from a routine, and say, I'm going to get up and do my job. I have a job to do, and I'm going to expect that I'm going to do 10 video conferences today. You're the first. I got 10 more behind you. And I know you got the same, Chad. You just told me you did. So we're all backed up hour by hour by hour for those of us that are working. But that's a choice. Now, we could both sit at home and just be like, I'm going to take a 4-week vacation. You cannot do that. In fact, I'm going to tell you the numbers in my personal market are that we've had a 38% increase in listings in March. In March, while the crisis is beginning to hit, a ton of sellers are coming to market, not because they want to sell, but because they need to sell. They need liquidity. And a lot of buyers are out there that still don't necessarily want to buy. They need to buy. They need housing. They want to take advantage of low interest rates. So that's the mentality we have to have. Yeah, there's going to be some people on the sidelines, but it's not going to go to zero. And the question is, are you going to get that business that is out there? So that's my message right now.
And that's a personal choice. That's a personal choice.
Absolutely.
It's like, do I want to put everything on hold, or there's still something happening? Do I want my little piece of the pie? And my response is always, has been the following: is let's say there was hypothetical numbers. Let's say there was 1,000 people that want to buy or sell a home in the next 30 days. Okay. Yep. And there was 1,000 agents that were going to do that business with the 1,000. Okay. Yeah. So all of a sudden, because a lot of agents have, shut down, mentally, emotionally, physically, their business, et cetera, maybe a good 20-30%. Now there's 700 agents, okay, yeah, or 700 people that still want to do business, but 50% of the agents has checked out. So in terms of ratios, you now have a bigger opportunity to
I love it.
A little bit more of the pool than you did a month ago. So you got to shift your mind, and you got to take a look at that from the perspective of like, what is still within my control. Yeah, I can't control what the government is going to do. Mm-hmm. I can't control what other people are going to do, but I can control how I think. I can control how I feel. I can control whatever little or a lot of income I can still produce. I can control being a person of contribution to the people that need me right now, who may not need to buy or sell anything right now, but who will in the near future. And Jim, another thing that's really, and this is being communicated to me through, the people that I coach all over the country, is this. The people that they're connecting with and they're speaking with, there's people that are saying, hey, I never knew how much I really love my home until I had to stay home.
Yeah, love it. Yes.
And then there's people that are saying is, I never knew that I don't belong in this home and I need a new home. So when this is all over and done with, I need to buy a new home. I need to sell my home, etc. Okay. Right. Because look, we're all forced to spend more time at home right now than we did before. So we're all discovering things in our home that we never knew even existed, or things that we need in our home that don't exist, that don't, et cetera. So, there's a lot of good that's coming out of that, but you're only going to see the good is if you're focused on the good, which leads to the next topic. And the next topic that I want to talk about before we talk about lead generation is the word focus, because focus right now is something that a lot of people have like immediately lost. It totally went out the window because the focus is now controlled by social media, by the media, by the text you are getting, by the calls you are getting, by the conversations you are having. Most people don't have focus right now. So my question is, number one, or a couple of questions combined together. Number one, how do you control your focus? Number two, what should you be focused on? And what should you not focus on?
So how do you control your focus? You have to control what it is that you are exposing your mind to every morning. So you start the day and you're going to make a choice. Either I'm going to completely wrapped up in the minute by minute, blow by blow of what's happening around the world with the coronavirus, which is we're completely surrounded by, or I'm going to make a choice of, yes, I'm going to touch the news at some point. We all are, but I'm not going to make it my first step of my morning, because the first step of my morning is I've got to set out my to-do list. I always tell every agents, you have to create your MVPs, your most vital priorities, right? So your MVPs are going to be a maximum of 6 major things you can get done in a day. You're not going to get more done than 6. You'll get a lot of minutia done that doesn't really matter, but the 6 things that really matter, that move the needle, that get you closer to your goals, it's hard to get 6 major things done every day. So you're going to write those 6 things down. You're going to identify what those things are. Then you're going to say, what's it going to take for me to move the needle on each of those items? And don't give yourself permission to lose that focus until you're moving down that road. Now, there's a couple of things that happen to us in society, which is interesting. We're slowing down and speeding up as a society right now. We're slowing down in the sense that we are now forced to come into a smaller kind of environment. So we're around our kids more, we're around our spouses more, but we're speeding up in the sense that now we've really got to use technology in a whole different skill set, whole different set of ways. So the agents that may have resisted video are going to be forced to do it, or they're going to be out of the business. They're just going to exit. It's going to be a mass exodus on those people. And remember, before this crisis hit, 96% of agents refused to do video. So it's a really interesting opportunity right there. So with focus is you got to set your goals. And what I'm recommending for everybody is throw away your business plan for 2020. It's been blown up. You might as well shred it.
Like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
You gotta re-step. You gotta recreate a new 90-day plan. Don't even think about the whole year. Just think about the next 90 days. This is the crisis timeline. So in your crisis timeline, what are you trying to accomplish? How many listings can you take virtually? How many buyers can you work with virtually? How many deals can you stack up that will come to you right after this crisis ends? And we're talking a lot about deal stacking right now, where buyers, there's going to be a group of your buyers and a group of your sellers are going to be like, you know what, I just can't do it. I just can't bring myself to leave my house. Like you said, it's a personal decision. I respect that. But I'll say, let me ask you, when this crisis ends and you feel healthy, you feel comfortable, do you feel like you'd be ready to go after 90 days? Let's say, can I put you on my contact list to give you a call and let's get to work? And they say, yes, great. Now I've stacked up clients. How deep is your stack? Even if you do 0 business in the next 90 days, which none of you should, how deep a stack can I build right now? That's the real question mark. And I think that's where the focus has to be, is strengthening relationships with your database and lead generation throughout this crisis.
100%. 100%. I want to add a little bit to that. Jim, in regards to focus, you touched on it, and I just want to expand on it a little bit more.
Sure.
Okay. And what I want the people to do out there is get this. Okay. You said, what are you exposing yourself to? And, what are you exposing? It's like, what are you watching? Okay. What are you listening? What are you, seeing? These are the things that, alter your focus. It's like, if you're walking by and you see a sign and there's a burger on it, now you're focused on, like, do I really want that burger or not? I think, and then you said the word rituals. And I think what should be more important of a ritual right now than it's ever been is the ritual of asking yourself a series of questions each and every single day as you begin your day, because that's the best way to totally control your focus. Because
yes.
The questions you ask yourself, your brain is going to focus on it. So if you ask yourself the question right now, what do I feel like having for lunch? What are you focused on? Food. Yeah. What you want for lunch? Okay. If you ask yourself, the question of, like, how can I get through this time? Now you're focused on, the answer of how can I get myself through this time? And, journaling, for me, my journaling process isn't just referencing what happened in the last 24 hours, et cetera. My journaling process is asking yourself 5 questions that totally allow you to control your emotions, okay, and steer the ship in the right direction. So asking yourself good questions is going to be the key. And I think one question that totally went out the window for a lot of people is this: in spite of anything and everything, what am I grateful for right now?
Love it.
The situation, what am I grateful for? It's like, people have always complained that they are so busy that they don't have time to spend with their kids. Well, guess what?
I got it.
You've been gifted.
Yeah.
Be grateful for that.
Yeah.
Okay. People, always complain about not having the time to do certain things. Well, now you got the time, and now you're complaining that, you don't, you get where I'm going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all good stuff. Now,
Let me add to that one real quick thing, Chadi, because you just made me think. Whenever we talk, we always come up with these ideas, which is limiting choice. So, the greatest leaders often limit choices. You look at a guy like Steve Jobs, who was famous for always wearing the same clothes every day. You look at Einstein, who only had one suit in his closet. It was always a black suit every day. There's people that limit choices, and it's the same thing when you're going on a diet. You limit your choices. I don't stand in front of the candy aisle when I'm on a diet because I'm going to eat the candy, right? So it's kind of the similar thing. So when you give yourself numerous choices, or that's unlimited choices for you, you're going to always generally pick the easy path, or the path that's not healthy. You're going to pick something where I don't have to engage a lot of work in it. And for us, that could be sitting home, be on Netflix, watching YouTube. You can get caught up in getting ready to get ready. But if you say to yourself, listen, here's my limited choices that I have. I can do this, I can do this, or I can do this, but all three of those options take me closer to my goals. I don't get the option of watching Netflix. That's not on the table. I have to do one of these three things. And creating a schedule for your day at home is so important. I've been telling all my coaching students this, is that ritual of what time are you getting up? What time are you in the shower? What time are you working out? What time are you lead generating? What time are you doing virtual meetings? What time are you skill building and training? That is going to give you, again, limited choice. During that hour, that's what I'm doing. There's no choice. That's what I'm doing. I can have some choice in maybe my approach, but that's what I'm doing.
Love it. Jim, something just came to my mind right now. I really want to talk about this real quickly. And it's probably something that a lot of people are not talking about. And it's for a specific category. There's single moms out there. God bless them. That's like, not a full-time job. That's full-time jobs combined in one, specifically now with the kids out of school and stuff like that. And there's, moms that are not single moms that have to manage 2, 3, 4 kids at home and homeschool them and all that good stuff, and single dads and, parents in general and stuff like that. So, for us that have children at home and we still got a business to operate, I'm curious, do you have anyone that you're working with that's in that category? What kind of advice are you giving those people? Because they got to manage the kids, they got to manage the home, and they got to keep the business going.
So I do have a lot of my agents are in that exact boat. My message to them is, it depends on the age of kids. Obviously, if you have babies at home or you've got little toddlers running around, it's going to be more challenging, no question. In that case, if you're not a single parent, and you have another person in the household that can help, I think you're both going to have to trade off time. It's going to be a time trade where I need 4 hours and a 4-hour block, or a 2-hour block, or a 1-hour block to work. Then I'll come on and you'll go work, and we trade back and forth if you have that opportunity. If you have older kids though, and older kids are used to being entertained now, it's very difficult. I have teenagers at home. I've got 14-year-old, I've got a 17-year-old home, boys that are used to being outside, they're used to being at the skate park, they're used to doing the things that they want to do. They're worse almost in some cases because they feel like the parents got to entertain them now. We have to create a boundary for them and say, listen, if you want to continue to eat, I've got to work. So you're going to have to figure it out. And so this is going to be my time of working. And then you also have to lay out for them what their homeschooling is going to look like. A lot of kids are homeschooled right now. And again, I think that's, again, scheduling. We can't allow chaos in the house. Chaos in the house is going to create chaos in your business. So you've got to organize it to the best of your ability, to the best of your degree, and have those, even with littler kids, having rituals, having schedules. And with the smaller kids, it might be they have a game time, they have a craft time, and that craft time is when you're working. You're getting 30 minutes to work. There's a movie time during the day, and you might get an hour of work in, and you just kind of have to schedule. Even scheduling becomes more important during those times. I'm seeing a lot of moms doing virtual play dates, and dads doing virtual play dates. So that's another thing that can sometimes help. It's not going to help forever, but it will help maybe for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. We all have to be creative during this time.
Right. So keyword is creative. Another thing that came to my mind is like, you got to be the leader of your house before you can be the leader of the world. Okay. Yeah. So this is a good opportunity for you to step up your leadership skills. In no way, shape, or form should you neglect your children. Remember, your children are your reason for you doing what you need to do right now more than ever. So please do not use them as an excuse, is what I'm telling every single person.
Love it. Love it.
Okay. So, look, let's talk about lead generation because, I got clients from all over the country just like you do. In some states, they're saying, hey, you can't call. Like in New York, they say you can't call till, September. But, nobody said you can't email, you can't text, you can't, do none of this stuff. So, I'm curious to find out, what are the 7 ways to prospect in uncertain times? Let's give that. Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's dive in. So I'm going to give you the 7 that I'm using a lot with all my coaching students. One of them is, and this is a given, you'd expect me to say this, so I'm going to get it right out of the gate. We've got to connect with your sphere of influence, the number one thing we should be doing. And so I've used a couple of scripts over the last 2 weeks. I'm trying to give all my students 1 script a week to empower them to make these calls. And you might convert these to an email if you're not allowed to call in your state. So the first week that we instituted this 2 weeks ago, the call was simply this: is just a connection call. Hey, just reaching out this week to check in with you, see how you're doing with all this coronavirus craziness. Now, it's really important with this, Chadi, that you don't take a position around, your feelings about the coronavirus. There's some groups of people in your database that are going to be like, oh, this is they're overblowing this, it's media hype, it's this, that, and the other. And then there's going to be another group in your database that are going to be like, oh, we should all be in a bubble, that, nobody should doing anything. There's all this differing kind of opinions about it. So we got to be careful we don't take a position. Let them talk. So how you doing with all this coronavirus craziness? How's it going for you and your family? And just let them talk. Let them talk. And remember, right now, because more people are at home, normally the answer to call rate in my experience with my students is 1 to 9. For every 9 dials, you get 1 person to answer. Right now, I'm seeing that with my students, it's like 1 in 4, 1 in 5, because more people are at home to answer the phone. More people, even if you have their cell phone, they're much more likely to answer now than they ever have been. So the key question at the end of this conversation, just this connection call, is you just say, hey, listen, is there anything I can do to help your family? Not just with real estate, but with anything. Now, I've kind of backdoored real estate into the conversation by saying real estate. The words real estate came out of my mouth. But I want them to understand it's really a caring call. It's really about helping people. One of my students is doing a bartering thing where they have this place where they bring things, as they live in the country, so they have this place where they bring things and they drop them off, and they barter with other people in the country. So somebody has toilet paper, another person has eggs, they switch them. All the crazy things. You could do that in the city with just by mailing it to each other. Hey, let's do a little barter here, little fun thing. So that's one of the calls. The second call this week, which is another connection call with the sphere, really dealt with what the HUD did this week, which is earlier this week, where they said, hey, listen, we're not going to do HUD said we're not going to start any foreclosures for the next 60 days. So they really just said we're not going to do that right now. In your database right now, there's somebody that desperately needs to know that information that doesn't know it. They desperately need to know that they can get some, what we call forbearance. And forbearance is a forgotten term we used in 2008 a lot. But what it means is, the call is simply this. You say, hey, how you guys doing this week at my house? And then you talk about what you're doing. At my house, we're doing a lot of game nights. We're having movie night every week. We're baking more than we ever have. I'm going to gain 300 pounds. But, when we come out, it will be all, super happy. What's going on with you in your house this week? And then let them talk. And then the next statement is, hey, quick question. Do you know anybody that's lost their jobs yet or been laid off because of the coronavirus? Every single person in your database will know someone that has been laid off, or maybe they've personally been laid off, or they know somebody that has been or lost their job. And the reason I'm asking is, many lenders are now offering something called forbearance. In fact, this is just a new announcement. It basically means that they'll work with you to defer payments or make interest-only payments during this crisis. And in some markets, renters are also getting the same potential benefit. So I'd be happy to talk to anyone that could use the help. That there will generate a tremendous amount of response, and people say, okay, Jim, what if they say, yes, I need the help? It's very simple. You say, listen, if you have a mortgage, here's the first thing you should do. Call the people where you write your check to, your servicing provider. Don't call FHA. Don't call where you got the loan from originally. It's who's servicing your loan now, and ask them, what's your forbearance policy? I'm having an issue because I've lost my job or been laid off. And I guarantee you they're going to be talking to you, because every lender in the country is going to have to deal with this situation. It's not just you.
Right. Love it. Love it.
So those are, really powerful. I will tell you that one of my students is doing 10 calls a day. And every day she's texting me and says she had 3 more people said, thank you so much. People are crying on the phone because of this call. People are saying, I do thank you and so much, and here's somebody you need to talk to. She's gotten 2 virtual listing appointments as a result, where she's done Zoom calls for the listing, because there's going to be a group of people that's not going to even help them enough, because they don't have enough cash in the bank to survive this. So they need liquidity. So the liquidity is, I got to sell my house. That's why in my market, we have had a 30% plus increase in listings, because people are already thinking, I got to liquidate my house, right? Now, one other piece of this is the investor pool market. You might assume that this script would only apply to people that are like blue collar. Absolutely not. It applies to all of your entire database, and here's why. I'm a guy that owns several investment properties. You probably do too, Chadi. So when you own investment properties, in many areas of the country, they put a suspension on foreclosures. So in my market, there's a 90-day suspension on foreclosures. You can't file an eviction on the renters. You cannot evict somebody for 90 days in my market. So now think of yourself, a guy that owns 25 rentals, and all of a sudden, all the renters stop paying their rent. Is that guy going to be in financial trouble? Is he going to have a liquidity problem? Of course he is. So that's another call to say to the investor, listen, you should call your bank right now and to have that forbearance conversation. By the way, do you need to liquidate anything to create some cash for yourself? Those are important calls to make. So that's an example of just the first lead generation tool that we're using. The next one, if you want me to roll into the next one, is
keep it rolling, brother,
yeah,
man. You're the expert.
I'll just keep rolling through, bro. So circle prospecting would be something you'd think would not be something you would be doing right now, but actually can be super, super powerful, because people just want to talk to you on the phone. People are hungry for information, and people are curious when they see new listings coming up in this market. They're like, why would somebody list their house in this market? But yet on the flip side, you're seeing a surge in listings, right? So the script there, and first of all, you got to have phone numbers, right? So people always ask me every time, where do you get the phone numbers for people? Tons of places you can get phone numbers. I'm just going to give you the one that my students use the most, which is the Red X. The Red X has great resources for homeowners and expired listings, and they have a great circle marketing program where you can put a pin in a map and it'll give you the phone numbers on owners on either side and across the street. So assume you've taken a listing, or let's say you don't, because you don't even have to be your listing. It can be anyone's listing that's come up in the market you could apply this script to. So, and by the way, 90% of listing agents never circle prospect. So it's like a wide open market, right? So I call in the neighborhood and I say, hey, good morning. My name is Jim Remley. I'm with ABC Real Estate. You might have noticed your neighbors just listed their house. And I wanted to call and let you know you're probably going to see some increased activity in the neighborhood, because more listing. When you have a listing come up, people tend to drive by it. And I just had a quick question for you guys. Have you ever been curious to see the inside of this house? And this is a great question. Have you ever been curious to see the inside of your neighbor's house? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I don't know, maybe. You say, well, there's a video tour, and I'd be happy to share it with you. I can shoot you a link that'll have the video tour. You can walk through it. By the way, can I ask you a quick question? Why did you guys choose this neighborhood to live in as opposed to all the other ones you probably toured before you chose to live here? And they'll say, oh, we like the we like the schools, we like the shopping, we like whatever. Totally get it. Makes sense. Let me ask you, if we can't find a buyer for that specific house and somebody loves the neighborhood, would you guys, crazy question I know, but would you guys consider selling for the right price? And they're going to say, maybe. If somebody asked me that question, I'd probably say maybe. It depends on the price. But let's assume they don't say that. By the way, 1 in 10 will say maybe. 1 in 10, that's my statistics from my students that make these calls. But that means 9 out of 10 are still saying no. When they say no, you don't end there, because I'm trying to fill my pipeline up for when they are going to say yes. Now remember, every time you drive through a neighborhood, every single home in every single neighborhood you drive through, all of those properties you're driving by every single day are going to be listed in the next 10 years. The question mark is, are you going to be in business in the next 10 years? If you're going to be in the business over the next 10 years, think to yourself, all of those neighbors are going to have a sign on the lawn. The question is, whose sign is it going to be? Is it going to be mine or my competitors? If I don't dump them into my database and start dripping on them, it'll never be me. So I've got to make some calls and put these people in my database. And how do I do it? If they say, no, they're not interested in selling, my next statement is going to be, totally get it. I'm not selling my house either, to be honest with you, and I'm a realtor. But my question for you is really simple, is would you be curious to know what your neighbor actually sells for? because every time there's a sale in your neighborhood, it does affect your home value, because that's what's called a comparable. If you're interested, I can shoot you an email when it sells, or I can shoot you a text and let you know what the number is. Would you be curious to know?
Sure.
Most people are going to say, yeah, I'd be curious to know. Curiosity is like the key to the puzzle of lead generation is curiosity. If you can tap into curiosity, that's what will open people up. And then they'll say, yes, now I collect their contact information, and boom, I'm on to the next call. But imagine you're making 10 or 20 of those calls a day. You are going to unlock opportunity. I guarantee it, no matter what the market is, but especially right now because more people are at home. So that's another technique is circle marketing. Next is investor marketing. Right now, there's going to be not a huge percentage, but a percentage of sellers that are on the market and that are coming to market that don't want to sell but need to sell, and that may actually have to sell for financial reasons. And they've lost their job. There's some reason they're selling. And it creates an opportunity for investors to pick up some really, really good buys. So a great opportunity right now for you is to text your database. Go onto your phone and scroll down to Z, start at Z and work your way back up, because we always forget the Z people. Work your way back up. And what you're going to text them is maybe 10 texts a day. Set a goal, 10 texts a day. Here's what you're going to say. And the text is simple. Several investments coming to market right now for investors and flippers. Let me know if you know of someone looking for an amazing deal. Who can resist that? Most people are going to be like, oh, wow. They're going to remember it at the very least. They're going to tell their friends about it at the very least. And a lot of times people respond themselves. And at the very least, it'll start conversation. And now here's another one. If for your database is a text, is ever thought about buying an investment property, ? If you've ever been looking to time the market and put it in quotations, this is a great time. And it is. It's a great time to be in the market. Super low interest rates. There's more listings coming to market, more opportunities. And then the last one is just looking for those investment properties. Your text is simple. You say, hey, if you know anyone that needs to sell fast, I have some investors that are in the market for some projects. If you have anybody that needs to sell fast, if you know of anyone, I have some investors that are in the market for some projects. So that's another opportunity that's unlocking a lot of doors right now. All right.
Keep rolling, brother.
Keep rolling. I love it. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to keep rolling. So now several of your viewers and your audience, your coaching students, my coaching students, have deals in escrow. They're still working. We're still got deals happening, right? I just had a coaching call right before this one. One of my coaching students, he's got deals. He's got like 4 or 5 deals he's working. And my question was, okay, with those deals that are working right now, those deals that are with buyers and sellers, what are you doing to capture referrals from them in the moment, like right now? And everybody has the same answer. Oh, I probably should be doing more of that. So I call this the golden circle. The golden circle is such an important thing to harness, especially right now. And here's what I liken it to. Let's assume you're going to go to I was just in Napa before this thing all hit. We flew to San Francisco for an event that I was doing. And then I took my wife to Napa. We'd never been to Napa before. We did the mud baths. We did the whole experience. It was super fun. Out in we did the Calistoga thing. So when we were there, we tried to get into this 3-star restaurant that we'd heard so much about, Michelin star. Not 3 stars, but a 3 Michelin star restaurant. And we couldn't get in. But it made me think to myself, we all have these experiences where we're going to be able to get into a really nice restaurant. And if we have that opportunity, what are we doing? We're telling all of our friends, hey, we're going to a 3-star Michelin restaurant this week or this month. We're excited. We can't wait to see what it's going to be like. And then there's a lot of buildup. You're talking to your friends and family. Then when you get there, you're taking pictures of your food. You're taking pictures of the ambiance. You're texting people while you're there. I can't believe I'm here. And then when it's over, you're still going to be texting and talking about it probably for another 30 days. So a 30-day window in leading up to the experience, during the experience, and after the experience, where there's a lot of conversation happening because you are in the midst of the experience itself. Now, 6 months from now, a year from now, I'm not talking about that restaurant. This applies to you in real estate. In real estate, right now, when people are in the experience, they are 4 times more likely to refer to you as an agent rather than 6 months from now, a year from now. Doesn't mean we can't get referrals. We work on that. We're going to keep working on that forever. But this is your golden window, your golden circle. So how do I do it? I'm going to give you 4 different scripts for doing this really quickly. Number 1 is these are all texts, by the way. I'm just going to give you some text scripts. You can do them in a phone call too. But here it is. First one is, hey, good news. Interest rates just took a tumble. Could be good news for your purchase. Also, if you know of anyone else on the fence about buying, I'd love to help. This is a great time to be a buyer, which is we've been seeing interest rates are fluctuating, but they've definitely come down to 40-year lows. So that's a good text, and it just kind of energizes the conversation of, do they know of anyone that's on the fence? Here's another one. It's crazy, but about 10% of the population moves every year. Just thought I'd put it out there in case you know of anyone following your lead. I love that, following your lead, and I'd love a chance to help. I'd love a chance to help. Next one is, hey, I just took a new listing that I know it's not right for you. Or you could flip it if you don't have your listings and say, I just saw a new listing come on the market. I know it's not right for you, but if you wouldn't mind sharing it with anyone you might know who's making a housing change, that would be amazing. And the last one is, if you're updating the market numbers and you say, hey, if you're curious how this coronavirus is impacting the market, here's the latest market numbers. They just came in. Home prices are, tell them what the home prices are. Sales activity is, tell them what the sales activity is. If you have any friends and family thinking about entering the market, now is still a great time with interest rates at 40-year lows. So just some ways to energize the conversations, even in the midst of the crisis that's happening. Number 5, which is one of my favorite ones, and something every single one of our students needs to do that probably hasn't done yet, is to start thinking about how I can attract business instead of chasing business. How I can attract business instead of just chasing business. And what that means is that I need to take a leadership role in this crisis. Now, you can love or hate Governor Cuomo in New York right now, right? Some people, based on his politics, doesn't matter. What you can't argue is he's doing a pretty good job on leadership, right? He is leading, and he's being perceived as a strong leader in this crisis. We need to be perceived as a strong leader in this crisis. And how do we do it? It's through communication with our database. And you can do it at scale with video. And we need to do videos, and a lot of them right now, that speaks directly to what's happening. So I'm going to give you an example of that. A script that we used last week to deal with this crisis, kind of just out of the gate kind of script. By the way, for those of you that don't use or that need a teleprompter, like I can't remember all the words you're saying, or I can't remember how I'd even say that. There's a great app that I use all the time called Videolicious. It's a weird name. Videolicious. Look for it on your app store. They have a teleprompter where it'll just roll the words in front of you so you look really professional, like a newscaster delivering the news. But here's the script we used. It is this. Hey, so guys, you're probably wondering, how does the coronavirus affect real estate? And this is me speaking to screen. First, it's important to understand that the real estate market's very strong and demand is high, which is true in my market. It's got to be true in your market for you to say that. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is comparing this event to 2008. For real estate, nothing could be further from the truth. In 2008, we entered the Great Recession with 11 months of supply, housing supply, subprime loans, high unemployment, and double-digit appreciation. Now, it's different today. Today, real estate in most markets really has a low inventory. And then you quote your local stats. In my personal market, we have 2.2 months of supply, so super low, not 11 months. Lending standards are extremely stringent. We don't have subprime loans. Just ask any buyer who's gotten a loan recently. Unemployment before we went into this crisis was at a 50-year low. So we're coming into this crisis in a good position. Now we know unemployment's going to rise, but we're coming into it 50-year low. And appreciation is in the 4 to 5% range nationwide. That's what it was last year, 4.5%. So it's not like we've had double-digit appreciation for several years coming into this. We've had very stable appreciation. Bottom line, real estate is a safe, stable, and secure investment. In fact, it is the backbone of the economy in the U.S., and it always has been. So if you have a question, you're thinking about selling, you're thinking about buying, you know someone that needs to sell or needs to buy, please have them give me a call. That's my script. And you're going to notice that's a 2 or 3 minute script probably, but that's what it needs to be. Now, some of you are really Instagram friendly, and some of you are Facebook, some of you doing LinkedIn. I recommend all 3, by the way. But if you're going to do Facebook, of course, it's always landscape. Instagram is vertical, right? So when I do a vertical video, that means I shoot this video twice. Now, there is editing software where you can cut yourself out. I don't do that. I shoot it twice. I just want it to be clean on Instagram. But this longer form video requires me to have a IGTV channel. Now, IGTV is so simple. You can all set it up in just 5 minutes. Go to YouTube, look up how to set up IGTV. It'll take you 5 minutes. Then you can post a long form video, and then it will show a preview of the video on your regular feed. That'll drive a tremendous amount of traffic to you and really be something I guarantee you'll have high engagement on. And then think about how you can have these conversations ongoing. So that was last week's script. This week's script for video dealt with what I've already covered, which is forbearance. So we had that speaking to camera. Hey, you guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about forbearance, and we walked them through the forbearance concept. So that was number 5. Number 6, here we go, rolling, man, we're rolling.
Yeah.
Defaults and pre-foreclosures. So now there is going to be probably not a surge, this isn't 2008, but an uptick in pre-foreclosures. You know, we're going to see that probably over time. And a lot of my students right now are asking, should I specialize in no, you shouldn't go after specializing in foreclosures. But pre-foreclosures is different. Pre-foreclosures is somebody's gone into a default stage, right? So here's what's going to happen with a lot of folks. They're not going to get the message about forbearance. They're not going to call their lenders and, you know, have the conversation, do the paperwork, and get set up. And they're just going to skip payments, and that's going to automatically set them on a default stage. They're going to get an automated letter that's going to go out and say, you didn't make your payment, you're in default. And so these situations create opportunities for us, because those folks may need some help in creating some liquidity or selling their home. So the biggest challenge a lot of times is when people are calling on a pre-foreclosure, first of all, where do you find them, which I'm going to cover in a second. But then how do you have the conversation tactfully and not come off as being, you know, you don't want to be seen as an ambulance chaser or anybody who's trying to, you know, take advantage of people. And we always want to have a servant's heart. We're coming to this from a place of, how can I serve you? How can I educate you? How can I help you? I'm here to be a servant. I'm here to help. That's the way we should always approach every situation. So how do you find these folks? First of all, Zillow has the pre-foreclosure status on Zillow. You can just click pre-foreclosure. They're pulling a lot in there, so you can probably find some pre-foreclosures in there. If you want to get ahead of that curve a little bit, go to your local title company. Not go there, call them now, right? And request a notice of default list. They call it an NOD list. And they will send you this list weekly or monthly, and now you'll have this list. Then you can amend or append the list by going to your RedX and finding phone numbers for these folks, because you'll have their address. You can just find their phone number easily. And then what's the script? The script is really simple. Here's what I say. I say, hey, good morning. Is this Mr. Jones? And they'll say yes. My name is Jim Remley. I'm a realtor over at ABC Real Estate. Reason for my call today is I was doing some research on properties in your neighborhood this morning. Not sure if you're aware of it, but Zillow has listed your home in a pre-foreclosure status. Now, understand this, Zillow's wrong more times than they're right. A lot of my friends have gotten listed in this too, and it was completely incorrect. But I just wanted to reach out and see if you have any needs for real estate at all, anything I can help you, anything in the world I can help you with real estate. I want to answer questions. If you need really a good valuation on your home, happy to do that. If you are thinking about selling, I'd love to be of service and you know, just give you any thoughts I have on selling. Is there anything I can do for you? And that's the way you approach it. I'm approaching it as a service provider, as somebody that's trying to help. And believe me, people will respond to that. Now, the question mark for a lot of people is going to be, are people going to scream and yell at me? No, they're not. They're going to be really okay with you making this call. The only downside to this is if you wait for the Zillow list, sometimes they will have gotten a lot of these calls. So I would try to get ahead of it with a notice of default list from your local title company. Next and last one, and the most important one of the day, is virtual open houses. So virtual open houses is going to be the new norm here for the next several months. So a virtual open house is going to depend market by market how you're going to approach this. But I'm going to give you a few of what my students are doing in the field right now with virtual open houses. And my company, just to fill you in, Chadi, we do an open house extravaganza every month throughout the spring and summer. So 7 months out of the year, we're doing this extravaganza. So like last month before this hit in February, really hit big. In early February, we had our open house extravaganza. We had 36 open houses, and we had some of the biggest numbers of people attending ever. We had one open house had 70 people, another one had 40 people, another one had 26 people. So the demand, as we saw with the February numbers, was super, super high. So don't think you should shelf open houses. We just got to do them in a different way. So the way you do a virtual open house could be one of several different ways. One way is to do a Zoom open house, just like we're doing now. So you advertise it the same way, but you advertise it as a virtual open house, and then you have registration where they register, with you, and then you send them a Zoom link. We're doing a Zoom meeting right now, and then they can stack up. They can all be in the Zoom call at the same time, and you're going to be physically at the house if you're allowed to be there by yourself. The seller should leave, and you're walking people through the house and giving them a tour of the house. Now, there's some benefits to this. One of the benefits is, because of registering with you, you're doing something that's often sometimes people consider difficult, is to capture client information or contact information. Now I'm capturing all that contact information right out of the gate in order for them to get in a position to have that meeting or be a part of that open house. So that's one approach. The way you do that is you have it same timeline, 1 to 3, and you're just walking to the house, and you're walking to the house. You're just having this continual walkthroughs, and people will pop in and pop off, and you'll be able to ask them questions like, "What would you like to see? Is there any questions I can answer for you?" And people will be able to just respond in a Zoom meeting. Now, you could do it in a different way. Another way to do it is to do it with a text approach, and the text approach is you're going to do a virtual open house, and then you're going to, on the virtual open house, you're going to say, please, and you give them instructions. And this, I just had a student do this. It was an amazing result. The instructions were, please come to the house, but don't get out of your car between 1 and 3. Text me at this phone number for your own personal tour. Now, you think about, why would I want them to do that? Why would I want them to go drive to the house? If it's allowed in your state, and it makes sense, and I know there's some really strict shelter-in-place rules, but if you're in an area where that's not that strict yet, if they drive to the neighborhood, here's the advantage. You're still doing social distancing because they're not getting out of the car. But the advantage is, and the reason my student did it, is because 9 of the 13 reasons why you buy a home is related not to the home itself, but to the neighborhood, to the environment that people are going to buy in that neighborhood, and the proximity to schools and churches and shopping. And so by getting them to drive there, they get a sense of the neighborhood, and they're seeing the curb appeal of the house from the outside. And then they text you. And while you're inside the house, you send them a link and say, can I connect with you on Messenger or FaceTime? They say yes. Now you're, of course, capturing their information. And you do a FaceTime, WhatsApp, Messenger walkthrough. But it's personalized because it's personalized with just one client at a time as you're walking through the house, right? And another beautiful way to have a virtual open house. We're going to see a lot of people get really creative with these things. And these are just a couple of the ways that I'm seeing right out of the gate. But let me just follow up with this and say that the key with these virtual open houses is going to be your follow-up afterward. Because like any open house, only 1 to 5% of the time will somebody buy the house you're showing open. So it's really about us capturing them long-term, putting them in a drip plan, and really making sure we're sticking with them for the long haul. How do you do it? I'm going to give you 2 quick ways for follow-up. And one of the ways...
3 minutes left, so.
I'm on it. We're done. We're almost done. Yeah. 2 quick ways. One is to say, in your text back to them, is to say, hey, listen, I just want to give you a little heads up that there's a lot of homes that don't ever make it to the MLS. We call those coming soon listings or unlisted properties. Would you like me to keep you up to speed on any of those so you can be ahead of the curve? No one can say no to that. Every single person will say yes to that. That's one approach. The second approach is, hey, listen, I have several other homes I could do a virtual tour for you. Tell me if you wouldn't mind filling me in on what your ideal home would look like. I'd love to know, and I can stream over some virtual tours. We can make some appointments. I can do some virtual walkthroughs for you as well. So there's some ideas, Chadi. 7 ideas. We did really rapidly, buddy.
Jim, I'm so grateful, for you having, given us your time today, because I'm sitting there thinking, and it's like, this is the real definition of contribution, is when you give, when you serve, and when you give material that people actually charge money for. Because when you didn't give people, here's what you go do, you actually show them how to do it. Okay. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that and say, I am forever grateful for you. For sharing this with my audience, our audience, the whole entire industry that we love so much. And man, I feel like I can talk to you for another 7 hours.
We'll do it at some time, brother.
Conversation going. So just want to say thank you. And
thank you, my friend.
And there's people that want to now enter your world that are not already part of your world. So how can people know a little bit more about, where can they go to learn a little bit more about Jim, how Jim can help them, etc. If in 1 minute or less, if you can give that to us, that would be
So
awesome.
real quick, you can find me at my coaching company is called erealestatecoach.com. So if you hop over there, you're going to see our coaching platform, which we call the Path. We call it the Netflix of coaching. So we got one-on-one coaching, and we do a lot of really great things with lots of downloads, lots of tools. You can also catch me, of course, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So I'd love to see you. And all those handles and all those places are going to be eReal Estate Coach. So if you look for me on eReal Estate Coach on any of those platforms, you'll find me.
Awesome. Jim, thank you very much, my
Thanks,
friend.
my friend. Appreciate it. Pleasure, my friend.
And we will see you very soon again.
You stay safe.